Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to those potentially on the live stream. I know that you guys are tuning in maybe across Canada. I'm so honored to be standing in front of you all today to be assisting in opening up the Hope Meets Action Echoes Through the Black Continuum. Before I introduce myself, I wanted to introduce the guests and welcome them here today. From the Minister of Children and Family Development and the MLA of Esquimalt and Michoacán, the Honorable Mitzi Dean. From Parliamentary Secretary of Gender Equity and MLA Victoria Beacon Hill, Grace Lord. From the Minister of Education and MLA of New Westminster, the Honorable Jennifer Whiteside. The Acting Vice President of Collections and Research, David Alexander. The Mayor of City of Victoria, Lisa Helps. From community representatives, we have William Goldette and Nikon Hayes. From the Community Focus Group, and whose art you can see throughout the exhibit, we have Huot, Ardarsh, Danielle, Katini, Adet, Umon, and Saidi Alexis. To introduce myself, my Haitian name is Vanessa Schoberg. Sorry, I'm a little nervous this morning. Let's rewind this. My Haitian name is Celine Simone, and my colonial name is Vanessa Schoberg. And for me, it's important to honor not only my Haitian roots, but also my African ancestral roots, because it creates a connection between my future, my past, and my present. In this colonial society where we often lose ourselves, it's important as diasporas to connect from the past and present, to connect to who we are and where we come from. This level of connection of past and present brings about a level of healing on the psychological and spiritual level, and it involves the individual and the community healing. In my own healing and connection to my roots, I've also connected to the roots of the lands and the people from them. I learned a great deal from Indigenous youths and elders, especially those elders who are fighting for the community as well as the lands, especially right now and what's happening at Bear Creek. One elder who has been instrumental to many, especially my life in particular, is Rose Henry, who I would like to welcome to her to the stage.
Way to go, Vanessa. Really catching on guard now. So I would like to, first of all, start, with the territorial acknowledgement of the unceded territory of the Songhees and the Esquimalt Nation, of whose land that I have been a guest on this territory for the past 35 plus years. And I come to this land from the Columbian Nation, which is my mother's homeland. And, for people like myself, it's very important to acknowledge who we are and where we come from. So I am my mother's only daughter and oldest child, and we come from Columbian, which has a matriarchal system that we follow. And so everything that I have gone through out in my journey has been, brought to me by my mother's teachings, and part of the system that I had also learned was the impact of colonialism, as I am a survivor also of the 60s coup, where I was removed from my community and from my mother's side as an infant. And so colonialism plays a huge role in my life, but it also plays a huge role in who I am today as a person who has become very well spoken about human rights human rights and the injustice that has been bestowed upon all the Indigenous peoples throughout the world. And so, when I talk about, human rights, it used to be just talking about living in poverty, and then it began, talking about, my relationship to my racism, who I am, and how I survived. To over the years, I began talking about the missing and murdered Indigenous people. And so my journey has taken me all around the world when I see injustice and I see how colonialism has impacted those of us that are considered visible minorities, even if it's in our own homeland. And so I, began talking a few years ago about the connection between Indigenous people and climate change. And there's a very strong relationship between climate change and the Indigenous people and the way we live our lives, and how we've been, caught in this colonialism role that has denied us the rights to be who we are and to be connected to our land. And so when I started talking about that relationship, it began with connecting from the missing and murdered people, and how, in the communities where individuals have gone missing, it had to do with a lot of development, growth and development of the community, industry moving in. And so when industry moves in, deforestation happens, crime rate goes up, cost of living goes up. And so that's where I began talking and seeing the connections and seeing how, us Indigenous people were not perceived as valuable. So it's just another Indian gone. And so I began to really talk publicly about this, and, have been really building that movement to raise the awareness of, the fact that, our lives do matter. And so over this past few months, what places like Fairy Creek have done have actually brought together the BIPOC community and the Indigenous community, as we are realizing that we're in this together, building this movement, trying to eliminate the injustice that has been brought forward to us. And the only way that we could do this was work together. And so Fairy Creek has provided an avenue for us to show our real strength in how we can do this from the grassroots up. Because all of us talk about our love for nature, our love for the forestry, and our love for our freedom. And our freedom right now has, been really restricted. Even in the forest industry, it's been restricted because now, we've been told by the RCMP and other politicians who are involved in the struggle to destroy Fairy Creek while we're involved in the struggle to save it. We're coming together and realizing that out of the old chants that we have, who keeps us safe? We keep ourselves safe. Who keeps us going? We keep ourselves going. Because without the people power behind the social justice change, nothing will really change. And so we have really formed an alliance with one another, with the Indigenous and the BIPOC, because this is something that we realize that is absolutely critical for us to stay together, even when we're facing, facing the oppressors, the RCMP that have been moving in and telling us that they're coming after the Indigenous people full force with a lot of brutality. And who is standing up there between us and the RCMP is the BIPOC community. A young, Asia has been there at my side, walking with me. We have a young woman by the name of Legend, who is also part of the BIPOC community, who is up there with us. And, you know, they're running back and forth, making sure that there's food and water, and making sure that this grandma is, you know, well taken care of. And it's vice versa. You know, now we've got, you know, people that are out there learning from the people of color about what it means to stand together in unity, and what that also means for Indigenous people to establish a new level of trust, because there's a long time ago that actually still today, we still don't trust a lot of people. But building this movement between all nations over trees. You know, we talked about this briefly a few nights ago, saying we're building this movement coming together because we all enjoy breathing. We all enjoy, you know, drinking water. We all enjoy each other's company, you know, through our music and through our art and through our willingness to walk together. And so, you know, one of the things that I've said to people that I've done, I teach them a little bit of respect, patience, and understanding by bringing out grandma. Our Indigenous people understand the heartbeat of every movement. This is what our heartbeat sounds like. Our grandma is our drum. This is the first noise that each and every one of us hears right from conception. We hear our mother's heartbeat. So when we listen to the heartbeat, sometimes it goes like this. Right now, this is about where it is at with the movement with Fairy Creek. And it's also creating the movement between the Blacks, the Mexicans, and the Indigenous people, from both the urban and the reservations. Some of us are coming together, some of us are very divided. But all the movements have been led so far around the preservation of our land. It's been led by women. Because we understand the importance of saving a future for the next 7 generations. So that's what's been happening at Fairy Creek. As Grandma Osa has been telling stories and sharing a little bit of wisdom to nourish people's souls, to keep them going, and to bring us together in a good way. So I want to sing the Woman Glorious. A few of you know it. I'm going to get everybody to stand for this. Because this is equivalent to singing "Oh Canada." Actually, it's a little bit better than singing "Oh Canada." This song was gifted to me in 2008 when I walked from Victoria to Ottawa for the missing and murdered Indigenous women. The song is 35 sing at all the different rallies now, when we ask our sisters and our grandmothers and our daughters and our granddaughters to come together. Everybody. So the reasons why we sing that song, you know, it's an empowerment. It wakes up the spirit of the women. It is a song that we sing 4 times, 4 directions, the 4 colors of the medicine wheel, to honor each and every one of us, because in accordance to the medicine wheel, we are all equal. But the minute that we have one color outweighing the other, it sets off, unbalances everything. And right now, we're trying to keep a balance. We're trying to keep a balance, and restoring that balance is up to the people at the grassroots to restore that balance. And it will be the women who come together to bring us together. So I'm going to say hi to Sam. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Rose Henry. I always appreciate you so much, just bringing that calm energy and just bringing the truth, and we honor that. How's everyone doing? Next up, I want to introduce Chris O'Connor, who's the Learning Program Developer at Royal BC Museum, Janet McDonald, who's the Learning Emirate and at Royal BC Museum. I also want to introduce Sylvia Mengu, who is the President of the BC Black History Awareness Society. Please give them a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Elder Rose Henry, for starting this event off in such a good way. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your activism. Thank you for your continual call to action. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We made it. We are here. The seed of the idea that could have unfolded into this beautiful and powerful exhibition, Hope Meets Action, echoes through the Black Continuum. Janet and I would like to say just a few words to express our gratitude for being witness to this process, for sharing space with this extraordinary team. The we of this exhibition is expansive, but the heart of the we of this exhibition is the BC Black History Awareness Society. Thank you to Sylvia. Thank you to Fran. Thank you to Rachel. Thank you to Charity. For anchoring this process, for asking the right questions, for always pushing the ball forward, for saying yes to working together when there were countless reasons to say not now, or no, just like flat out no. And those would have all been really like understandable and reasonable responses. Your yes, though, just speaking for myself, your yes, your continued yeses humbled and inspired me, and I'm so grateful. From a place of trust and mutual respect, we got down to work. Together, our organizations hired a stellar creative team. Josh Robertson, the curator. Josh Robertson, the curator and writer, and Rodney Hazard, the designer. Oh my, like we couldn't have gotten more lucky. Just like being witness to their process, to them working together, them just like bringing such brilliance to the forward. Once Josh and Rodney were brought on, we further expanded the we by engaging with community focus groups. And just the other day, I was rewatching those sessions and was reminded of the truly brilliant folks that came together. Seeing the exhibition now, there are clear, tangible threads stretched from what was expressed early on by community and what we see play out on the walls today. So if you were part of the community focus group, can you stand up? Is there anyone here from the? Woo! Yeah. So as time went on, we continued to expand out the we to include staff within the museum who helped and lent their particular skills and expertise. While more than 20 plus museum and archive staff have been service to this process, I want to give special thanks to Steve Lewis, Genevieve, Sue, Thomas, Wes, in the background, and Annie and Eve for understanding that our role within the we was to lift up, not lead. And they all did that with kindness and careful consideration, and I'm proud to be colleagues with them. This has been an incredibly challenging but necessary moment of reckoning for the Royal BC Museum. This museums in general, swim in the waters of colonialism and white centering narratives and collections. And thankfully, finally, museums are being pulled out of that water, sometimes gracefully, sometimes kicking and screaming, but hopefully to a place of new perspective, reimagining, restructuring, dismantling, and relearning from the ground up. And this exhibit is part of that process. So the we of the exhibition now includes you all. We have audience now, so the we is you. And we're so thankful for you to be here. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see everyone here. Thanks, Chris, for inviting me to say a few words today in support and appreciation for this foundational collaboration and in celebration of a collective vision made real. And especially to the Black History Awareness Society, Sylvia, Fran, Rachel, Charity, Josh, Rodney, for welcoming me back to celebrate with you. It was my great privilege to witness the birth of this true partnership in the waning months of my career in museums. I retired from the Royal BC Museum just a few months ago at a point when the momentum of this project was escalating and it was blooming. And since my departure, I've been in a reflective mood, to say the least. I'm looking back over 40 years of working in museums and contemplating an immense trajectory of change in our profession. And as Chris says, sometimes quick, sometimes excruciatingly slow. I have learned so much from my colleagues, but most importantly, so much from our communities. This is what I know. Insular Western storytellers must become collaborative facilitators and community connectors in service to the centering of a myriad of past truths. Museums are about, by, and for people, and if we are to represent many truths, there is a reckoning for museum practice ahead. Equitable compensation for and representation of community expertise is a given. Building and maintaining trust takes time and a leap of faith by everyone. Museum education is not top-down. We must listen, amplify, advocate, and align what we say with what we do. We must act. Thank you all for your generosity of spirit in teaching me these things. Sincere congratulations. This is a trial and a roadmap for all future collaborative work here at the museum. Thanks so much. Congratulations.
I did want to say thank you so much, Vanessa, for holding space today, being such an amazing moderator and facilitator for today. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you, everybody. I have to ask her name because she's one of the few dignitaries that made it, but I couldn't recognize her name and the face, so I had to ask her for her name and Mitzi, right? From the Ministry of Children and Family Development. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. You cannot imagine how grateful we are and how honored we are that you make your morning here with us. So we are very, very grateful and honored. So thank you so much for that. Okay, before I continue with my short speech, I want to give my condolences to the indigenous people of these lands, especially the indigenous people of BC. We mourn your children, we do, and we honor those ones that survived and their families. We stand together with you. Allow me, please, to also make some special mentions. I want to mention Mitzi. Thank you so much for making it here today. And Mayor Lisa Help, thank you so much. And thank you for your leadership. I also want to thank everybody that participated for this event to be real. I want to mention a person that was very iconic to our society. Her name was Mavis, and if I get a little bit emotional, forgive me about that. Mavis was a president of our society for 7 years. She died last month. Mavis brought with her knowledge, kindness, respect, wiseness in the way we work within the organization, in the way we work with other organizations in the community, and in the way we work with individuals, like the individuals that took part of this exhibit. Mavis was my mentor. That's why I'm a little bit emotional. She was my mentor, and she pushed me out of my comfort zone to be the president of this society. And if it wasn't for her encouragement, and if it wasn't for her she was a pain, honestly. She would look at you and she would say, oh, you look nice and you are doing well, but you can do better. So she was always pushing and pushing and pushing. So how can you not improve yourself having such support behind you? So maybe wherever you are loved and you will always be in our hearts. COVID has been devastating. It has disrupted our lives in positive and negative ways. It has allowed us to find the space and willingness to address systemic and structural inequalities, such as the structural racism that exists in our society, in our country, against the Black communities and the communities of color. These inequalities has been reflected in health results across our communities, from Brampton in Ontario to here in Victoria in BC. We all must, because we all have the power to fight against discrimination. No one here can tell me that they don't know what to do, because we all know. And if you don't know, find out. There's a lot of information outside, a lot of books, a lot of people, a lot of things that you can do to find out what you can do for the truth and reconciliation with the Indigenous people, for the people of color, for the immigrants, for the Blacks, for the whites. Because let's not forget, discrimination affects all of us. The Royal BC Museum, I want to thank you. I want to thank you because you have allowed the BC Black History Awareness Society to be part of your journey. This is your journey. This is your journey. So we are very thankful that you allow us to be part of it. I also want to thank my team, because you were diligent, you were enthusiastic, and you were excited all through this project. And I want you to know that we did all this through Zoom. So you can imagine how carefully we had to communicate, and how truthfully we have to communicate, and how much we trust each other to communicate. Of course, I would like to thank all the people in the museum that participated, putting the panels up. But this is not the first time an exhibit of Black history has been done at the Royal BC Museum. In 1993, the Royal BC Museum approached the Victoria Black community to host an exhibit on Black history in BC. The exhibition was launched in February 1994 and attracted more than 5,000 visitors. It also inspired the community to come together, forming the BC Black History Awareness Society's committee. One of our supporters was the Honorable Emery Barnes, an elected member of the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia in 1972. And now, a few years later, the museum brought us together again with the hope meets action echoes through the Black Continuum. This is the name of the exhibit. And as Chris was saying, there have been challenges, but only by working together, we overcome that separates us. the Royal BC Museum agreed to have the Black community lead this exhibit. And this is the first time something like this happened. So kudos for you, Chris and Janet. Thank you. This has been an opportunity, a great opportunity for both sides. And I hope it's not the last one. I hope the museums opens up to work, to co-create with the community. So as you will see in the exhibit was Black-led. We use Black voices for its content and design. This exhibit is a clear example of the mutual respect and co-creation that two different cultures can happen and give birth to something as fantastic as this exhibit. This exhibition is a symbol of history. It's a symbol of remembrance. We are remembering the Black pioneers of BC and their legacy. This exhibit is also a symbol of welcoming to the new Blacks in the province. And it's also a symbol of protest and resilience. This exhibit is full of hope. Hope for action, hope to thrive together as community. And I personally, I hope this exhibit makes you feel inspired and re-energized about the future. So now, please, I will talk to you about a little bit about the three artists that were part of this exhibit. I'm going to read a little bit about them, and then I'm gonna call them to stand here with me on the stage. So I'm going to start with Rodney. So Rodney Hazard is a multidisciplinary artist, creative director, and the founder of Leloup Studios based in Brooklyn, New York. Since obtaining his Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Graphic Design from St. John's University, his decade-long career spanned across art direction and creative execution of all forms. Using his wide range of creative skills and commercial awareness, he is constantly executing on a wide variety of successful design and multimedia projects. As a musician and DJ, he has performed all over the world, facilitating a variety of audiovisual experiences, fostering a sense of inclusivity among his audience. So, Rodney, if you want to join me here. Now let's, Joshua Robertson was a founding board member of the Huggins Alley Society, an organization that works to redress the displacement of people of African descent and to advance their social, political, economic, and cultural well-being. Joshua's research, advocacy, and consultancy focus on the centering of racialized communities and city planning, alternative economic models of inclusion, social enterprise development, and redress-based urban. So Joshua, please, if you can join me here. Shade Alexis is a Black woman whose work focuses on the ways in which Blackness can be understood and celebrated through art in all its complexities and intricacies. She uses her practice as means of bringing Black experience into the historical colonial art world. Shade also uses her practice to understand what it means to be stolen people on a stolen land. Her work questions homelands and our ties to them or lack of thereof. She makes her art for working class Black folks who often are excluded from and barred from art spaces. She is currently working as a freelance illustrator and is an art instructor for neurodiverse children. So please, Sade, if you can join. You just can't. How proud I am of these three people here. We worked tirelessly, didn't we? We met from, 6 months, 8 months, something like that. I don't have words. I'm very, very proud, and I know that you will too once you see the exhibit. So I'm gonna allow them to talk a little bit about their experience, and thank you again.
Good morning, how is everyone? Good. My name is Rodney Hazard. I traveled over 3,000 miles to be here today. Very excited to work here. First off, I'd love to thank the BC Black History Awareness Society, Sylvia, Josh, Sade, of course, Fran, Rachel, Charity, the whole team. Thank you so much for inviting me to collaborate with you and, of course, create this beautiful work. So, as previously mentioned, this was made mostly on Zoom. I worked on this remotely, didn't get to see the space before we did it. And I think that the most important thing to take away here is the fact that this sense of community is the connective thread between everything, and also the resilience between communities and cultures and countries, I think that's super important to notice all the design elements that are taken into consideration here to create this beautiful collaboration. So some of the design process, the work that's in here and outside of here, these loose shapes and colors are loose interpretations of indigenous territories, which is why you kind of see the map and the wallpaper background here. Then outside here, these fonts are actually made by Black designers from all over the world. And as well as, this is kind of more about Afrofuturism and, taking the step forward. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you to Chris, to Janet, to everyone at the Royal BC Museum for having me. Steve in the back and Michael, who isn't here, but his presence is definitely felt. Thank you to Josh for, we collaborated very closely on this. And this is actually the first day that I met him in person. So again, this was all done completely remotely. And I'm very grateful to be here in person, especially with COVID, the restrictions that have happened, but that kind of made it possible for me to be here today as well. So taking a very positive outlook on it. I want to say thank you again to all the communities for having me, and I hope that you truly enjoy everything that you see and take in and embrace all of the hard work that went into this today. I'll be around too, so if you want to speak to me about any design concepts, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. I didn't know I was going to be up here, so I didn't prepare anything. So if I ramble, just give me a look, and I'll stop talking. I would thank everybody by name, but I'm terrible with names, so I just want to say thank you to everybody. But especially, I want to say thank you to Josh. I grew up in Vancouver my entire life. I've lived there for 23 years, except for 4 months where I lived in Toronto. And I've spent a lot of it, longing for Black community. I've spent most of my life being the only Black person in a room. I went through all of my schooling career being the only Black person in every single class. So I just want to say thank you to Josh, because this is kind of the first time that I felt like I've had a community living in Vancouver. It's kind of the first time that I've had the opportunity to work with people that I know, think exactly like me and have the exact same beliefs as me, and also have my back all the time. I know that throughout this entire process, without even meeting me, Josh always had my back, always made sure that my ideas were being heard, that my voice was being lifted up as a Black woman. And I just really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share my art with all of you folks. I also really want to say, I had learned about Rosemary Brown, I think maybe like four or 5 years ago. And she was like the first Black person that I had learned about in Vancouver in terms of Vancouver's Black history. And her story really opened the door for me to learn about the fact that Black people had been here for like years and years and years and years. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to Rosemary Brown and thank you to her family. I don't know if you guys are here. And yeah, thank you for having me and thank you for honoring our community and lifting our voices up. Yeah, thank you.
A little tall, so I'm at the bend a little bit. Good morning, everyone. Such wonderful words. Hopefully you can all hear me. We scream at marble walls, hoping to reverberate in hollowed halls. Liko but we talawa. So deafened by our own roars, strengthened in our voice, we hear our ancestors who inhabit us, 10 toes for those yet to come. Trying to trace a reflective memory across the melanin, cycle like seasons, overgrowth obstructing the healing of our wounds, spinning cycles, dizzyingly ignore us. We are caught living in correspondence, gasping to be acknowledged. Need we be broken to be seen? Made invisible in our own homes, good intentions keep us in a perpetual state of coddling, brushing away erasure, pacification process rocking us to sleep as machinations mechanize. The apparatus of performative progress marches over, all to put glass boxes over broken bridges. Only stopping at the impasse of grief, blood, and tears clogging its gears. Small, we stand tall, small acts, big tree, lick up, but we talawa. Resound against the unsettled winds that have turned our temples to sand, and that sand to concrete. Small, we stand tall, lick up, but we talawa. My name is Joshua T. Robertson. Was something I wrote at the time of taking the role of writer and curator of Hope Meets Action, Echoes Through the Black Continuum. Let me say first that I'm here not only for, but as a result of my ancestors' deliverance. My grandmama, Mama, a woman from Jamaican country with a third grade education whose daughters became doctors and professors, and used to say, have to stand on, cook it, and cut straight. That's her literally here today. My grandfather, Bibi, who I watched from a crack in the door as he wrote for hours, reading things I later realized were accounts of, among other things, his time working with Marcus Garvey and standing trial for seditious libel against the colonial Jamaican government, has delivered me here today. I'm delivered here by my family in attendance today, including my defiant mother, June Francis. The community, I have to say the community that has supported me, including the BC Black History Awareness Society, and excruciating hours, and their incredible work, and by the countless members who share their wants and needs, their pain and joy with me, by the artists of Sade, whose work, and Rodney, who we feel, and how we feel this history, and by the individual allies I've had at the museum that have really supported me. There are many individuals here and those before us, without whose countless hours this exhibition inhabited space would be hollow. The need to acknowledge that last year's Black Lives Matter protest hit many a scale. It was built firmly in the years and decades of Black activism, often led silently by Black women. Echoes through the Black Continuum. As I assembled this continuum you see here, I started to hear and feel. I can hear the roars emanating from the Zion Church in San Francisco in 1858. I can feel the hope, fear, courage, as that packed house of Black folk looked to Vancouver Island for refuge from racial terrorism. It sounds and feels like the countless hours I've spent in rooms flushed with Black community, ripe with talent, experience, capacity, finding themselves as so-called activists simply because they are looking out for the next generation. It sounds and feels like the meetings we had with the Black community for this event. Looking with hope, meeting that hope with action, and creating a Black space amongst the stone pillar white gates. The call I heard was a call for positive assertions of our belonging and identity, against erasure, stories of Black prosperity. The context of erasure is imperative for understanding our stand here. We have been whitewashed from this history for far too long. We have been held as strangers in our country for too long. Living in this society is both hyper-visible and invisible. And so I look onto the work that we have done with so much pride and so much weight, proud of the strength we have shown and the fight we have carried, weighted by the knowledge and of the potency and richness of our past and our living history. This exhibition must be the foundation of new stories that we tell our children. It is with that in mind that I must call for the museum to center decolonized Black and Indigenous history, programs, and interpretation. If we are to decolonize, I also call on the museum to dramatically increase access to the records relating to residential schools immediately. A holder of records of genocide should not have barriers that effectively deny access to the victims of that genocide. In my role as curator, I spend countless hours reaching out to Black community members, listening, learning, being uplifted. I spent more time on that than I did anything else in regards to this project, or pretty much anything else in my life for the past 8 months. I say that because this exhibition is not about any individual in this room. This exhibition is not about discrimination, racism, or ideology. This is about community and space. They have us in the closet space, in the pocket, and from there we fought and emerged into this hall. Woo! Asserting our belonging, unabashedly our Blackness. Do not be mistaken, our history is so rich and our fight so sincere that we will burst from this hall into the boardrooms. And from there we will transpose the foundation and bring in new. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Those were such amazing words. Can we just give them another round of applause, please? Next up, I just want to welcome Chris O'Connor to give the instructions and directions. Excited. Yeah.
Well, this was actually part of the, this was when COVID protocols were more restrictive, so we were gonna spend time in sort of smaller groups going around to each exhibition. But you're free to walk around and look. And though I do want to say, a couple things. So one is around the corner, we have a book that we would love to hear what you think. So please feel free to write in that book. Everyone who's part of the project will be able to read that and be able to take in your words. So really invite you to do that at some point before you go. In addition to this space down here, you're welcome to come up into the second and third floors as well. When you go to the bottom of the escalator, you could just say that you're with the Hope Meets Action exhibition, and you can just go right up into the second and third floors of the museum as well. So yeah, thank you so much. Sylvia, is there anything else you would like to say?
So I just want to welcome you to see the exhibit, enjoy. If you have any questions, there you have the curator, George, the designer, and the artist. You can ask them any questions, they will be here. And so thank you again and enjoy the exhibit. Really, really enjoy it. Thank you. And yeah.
I would say one more thing is that the exhibition is open until the beginning of March. I was thinking, Josh, as you were talking, the echo back, but also echo forward, and the reverberance and the resonance in the months to come of people coming and being with this exhibition. So invite people to come and just spend time here in the coming months, all the way to March. And then I look forward to our continued work together. Thank you so much, everyone.